I'm Peter Lee, a Singaporean scholar of Peranakan descent, Chinese with a dash of Malay. I'm off on a new journey, searching for untold histories. This is so beautiful. It shows all the people that came through here. You could not use fake money, and you had to be nice to your servants. To explore how 4 distinct kingdoms rose and fell. On the Japanese Isles and the Korean Peninsula. Creating unique cultures and identities. Look at this. That still resonate today. Everything is based on really old designs. So the past and present all mixed up together. I'm in Japan's northern island of Hokkaido, going up Mount Moiwa for a view of its capital city, Sapporo. What a spectacular view. It's unbelievable. There's this cluster of skyscrapers creating a kind of man-made mountain range. And behind the mountain range, so green and lush as far as the eye can see. Such an incredible contrast. In my travels, I've explored the history behind many kingdoms across the region. But I'm here on a different kind of journey, to learn about a unique people who aren't commonly known. This is a typical busy Japanese train station, and what you don't usually see is indigenous art. Like this beautiful cloth inspired by an old design. This wooden carving of salmon. And a panel with descriptions on aspects of art and history and culture in a train station. It's so unusual. The indigenous people of the island are called the Ainu. Their culture was formally established in the 13th century. But their story is said to go back for millennia. Ancestors of the Ainu have lived here for over 10,000 years, surviving the harsh environment through fishing, foraging, and hunting. While groups settled across the Sakhalin and Kuril Islands, and to the northern part of Honshu in modern Japan. At their center lay Hokkaido. Legend says their homelands were created by a determined wagtail that pounded down in a swamp over and over again until it formed dry ground, the Ainu Moshir, or land of the people. To the Ainu, the world was full of divine spirits they called Kamui, which took on the form of animals and nature that they respected and coexisted with. The Ainu of Hokkaido were a resourceful people who inhabited villages called kotan. Neighboring communities formed a river group, typically the largest unit in Ainu society. But their lifestyles, centering on the natural environment, was common across all clans. I'm heading to a present-day version of the Ainu Kotan, a village at Lake Akan in eastern Hokkaido. It's a lovely jumble of Ainu motifs everywhere, restaurants, wood carving shops, a lot of crafts. This settlement is home to about 120 residents. Beautiful. And is one of several Ainu-themed tourist villages that celebrates their culture in a bit of a kitsch way. So you have these really attention-grabbing totem poles right here. You have the bear, the killer whale, the owl, powerful Ainu symbols. You find these carvings of a bear carrying a fish in its mouth all over Hokkaido. Some say the idea was copied from a Swiss mountain village a century ago as something Ainu craftsmen could sell to visitors. It does have a bit of a Disneyland air about it, and that's because the village was only founded in the 1950s. With just 4 households, it's grown almost tenfold since. Turning their culture into a tourist attraction has helped these Ainu communities survive. I'm speaking to wood carver Kengo Takiguchi, who took over his father's shop 5 years ago, about the rich symbolism behind Ainu crafts. So many beautiful owls. I really love it.
Ainu people believed that owls are the god of village. There's a Ainu house, right? In the nighttime,
Yeah.
Those owls come fly on the top.
I see.
Yeah, because Ainu people makes fire.
Yeah.
It's warm up there. And when those dangerous animals come close to the village, they make a sound like ooh.
I see.
Ooh,
Like a warning sound.
yeah. That's why owls became a village of god.
I see. The Ainu were legendary carvers. And I'm getting a taste of the art by making a pendant.
The swirl mark is called moreu.
Moreu.
Moreu, which means turns slowly. It's gonna protect you.
Yeah. So
Pendant, yeah.
it's a good luck charm.
Good luck charm.
Keep me safe, yeah. So I've chosen a traditional Ainu design, and I just have to use a kind of V-shaped chisel to etch out this pattern after drawing it in pencil. I would say the main art is how not to slice your fingers. But what does the Ainu community here think of living in a village on show? How is it living in the Ainu Kotan?
小さい頃そのアイヌ踊りを例えばいろんなねところから来た観光客に見られるっていうのはやっぱり見せ物として嫌でした。変わったのは2011年ぐらいなんですけれども、北海道の旅行をしてでその時にアイヌの、儀式を見に行こうっていう話になったんですね。でそれがすごくかっこよくて、アイヌ文化に興味を持ち始めたのはそのぐらいからです。観光アイヌっていう人が使うと悪口になる言葉があるんですけれども、まあこっちの観光のこともやりつつそういう伝統的なことも一生懸命伝えていきたいとは思います。
Yeah. So the carving is finally done, and now for the staining. Kengo-san.
Here we go.
Wow. Now I have my Ainu amulet. I feel very protected. Estimates of Hokkaido's current Ainu population differ widely. But some come in as low as 13,000 on an island of over 5 million people. To understand why they were nearly erased, I'm going back in time. This community facility in Atsuma, southern Hokkaido, commemorates the town's past heritage. Amazing, this is like a treasure trove. My guide is curator and history buff Tetsuya Inui, who is showing me some of their oldest artifacts.
こちらがアイヌの丸木舟っていう全体が 6.6 メーターあります。おそらく川辺に埋まってたものが前の年に洪水があったんでそれでまた、削られて流れて再漂着してた状態で見つかりました。
Considering that it was buried, it's actually in really good condition.
アイヌの人たちがまず後ろの方この辺あたりに乗って、竿でこういうふうについて、操船します。であともう一人先頭の方に乗ってで真ん中に荷物がこう乗るような感じ。
These canoes were used for everything from fishing to carrying goods for trade. But who did the Ainu trade with? Inside a climate-adjusted chamber are treasures almost 1,000 years old. I can't believe I'm allowed to handle something so old in this incredible little room. Some people like to be wine cellars, but this is my kind of storeroom. This is an arrowhead used for hunting, but closer inspection reveals a big surprise.
この溝があるのが世界でシベリアアムール川流域しか出ていないんで、もうアムールからサハリン北海道に来たものっていうことが分かっています。
So this would have been a trade item. It's traveled a long way. These artifacts show that the ancestors of the Ainu were not just hunter-gatherers, but also engaged in lively trade with their near neighbors. And in the 12th century, their network expanded as the Ainu began to make exchanges with a group of new settlers, the Japanese. Evidence from old Ainu graves show a flood of exciting new goods that came from the south.
こちらの鏡和鏡は、京都から北海道に入ってきたものと思われます。アイヌの女性すべてが持てるものではなく、当時の貴族が使うようなやっぱり高価なものですね。
I see, a luxury product made for Kyoto, but found its way all the way up to Hokkaido. And those were not the only fine goods the Ainu obtained from their southern neighbors.
これは、鎌倉時代の武士が持つ刀で、ここの握りのとこの金属は金のメッキがされています。こちらがこの刀を復元したものです。
Wow, the work is very delicate. The Ainu would have used such beautiful Japanese swords. Why?
戦いではなく、おそらく宝物として、大事にこれを持っていたんだと思います。
This is such an unexpected find in Ainu territory. The Ainu's first trades with the Japanese were driven by the desire for exotic treasures, which in time became part of the Ainu way of life. It was a harmonious relationship, with the Ainu calling the Japanese Shisamu, meaning good neighbors. Trade between the two peoples took off in the 13th century, with a bountiful marine crop at the heart of their exchanges. I'm on Hokkaido, home to Japan's indigenous Ainu people. I've seen how the Ainu sought new treasures from their Japanese neighbors. In return, they harnessed valuable resources from the natural world. I'm heading out with a group of fishermen. Our destination is an underwater garden of kombu kelp that's abundant in the cold waters of Hokkaido. Wow, that's really a lot of kombu. Kombu is traditionally used in Ainu cuisine. But we're not here to harvest. Instead, we're doing some weeding. My guide is Misako Tamaya. How big should a good one be?
こういうふうに引っ張ったら上がるんですよ。こういうね、重い幅の広い。今まだ黄色いんだけども、これがね、茶色いの濃い色になるんですよ。で、これ今こう柔らかくてね、すぐこう裂けてしまうけども、硬くなるんです。全部やればやっぱり5メートルも6メートルもなるんだけどね。
Wow. We're picking the 8 good ones, and they have a certain weight. They feel heavy and healthy. We're weeding out the smaller leaves to give maximum nutrition for the biggest kombu to grow.
こういうのはもういらないから、こっち取っちゃうこれ。小さいの、小さいの取ってしまう。小さい。小さい。いや、小さいのは全部取っちゃう。
小さい。And then we have a very neat, weeded bunch of 8 kombu. So that's just one down and thousands more to go. This kelp will need another 2 months to reach its full size before it can be exported to shops across the Japanese mainland. Today, it's one of the highest earners of Hokkaido's fishing industry, bringing in over $100 million on average each year. It's also a crucial component in Japanese cuisine. Some say the word konbu comes from the Ainu konpu, meaning things that grow on underwater rocks. Traditionally, it's a much-loved source of umami stock flavor for both peoples, but Ainu lands were central to the supply. And even today, as much as 90% of all kelp harvested in Japan comes from Hokkaido. Both the Ainu and the Japanese benefited from direct trade with one another. But exchanges with their new neighbors also opened up some risk to the Ainu. I'm heading up to a mysterious mound facing the seas. I've counted over 100 steps, and it's just a little bit more to go. This clifftop site is called Kamui Chashi. I'm on the ridge leading to the site, and you can barely see anything because of the fog, but you can hear the waves crashing on both sides. The approaches to anything important is always a little theatrical and magical. I'm getting goosebumps. Chashi, indicating a fenced-off area, were thought to have originally been simple gathering places used for ritual ceremonies and meetings. But over time, their function changed. And the first clue about how is this artificial border below. Now this is very interesting. A man-made V-shaped ditch. It's about 16 meters long, 5 meters wide, and about 3 meters deep. We can't say for sure whether this trench was dug to keep people out, but further along are more clues. Rounded stones like these are usually found by the river and the sea, so this pile would have been brought up here. Some experts suggest they were used as projectiles to defend against intruders. The Chashi's transformation hints at a fundamental shift in the Ainu lifestyle from hunter-gatherer to the keeping and defending of precious goods. By the 15th century, trade with the Japanese proved so lucrative that some Ainu leaders began to amass status and power within their society. In turn, small settlements of Japanese traders appeared on Hokkaido, drawn here by its natural resources. I'm at Shinoridate, one of 12 forts built by the Japanese on the island's southern tip, with Professor Kazuyuki Nakamura.
向こう側のその南の方から交易のためにやってきた人たちがいて、でその人たちがここで交易すると、交易を許してもらう。そのためにまずここの支配者に挨拶をして、で許可をもらうとか、そういうことだったんではないかと思います。
This fort was a nexus for interaction between Japanese and Ainu. Excavations in the 1980s uncovered the foundations of a number of structures enclosed in defensive walls.
商品はここに蓄積されていると、そういう場所だったと思います。アイヌからも攻撃されやすいし、むしろ南の和人からももしかしたら攻撃されたかもしれない。この高台に砦を作ったのは防御のためだというふうに思います。
And in 1968, a huge discovery was made by road workers just 100 meters from the fort. The biggest haul of old coins ever unearthed in Japan.
これらは砦跡のすぐ近くから見つかった38万枚の中国戦貨ですね。初めて見つかった時はもう周りの人たちもびっくりして大騒ぎになりました。
What they found were 3 enormous vats containing coins that totaled 1.6 tons in weight. Inside the mysterious haul were 93 types of coins, from as far away as Vietnam, Korea, and China, which were all used in Japan as currency at the time.
経済の中心にこういうお金が埋まるというのは分かるんですけど、なんでこんな一番北の端に埋まるのかというのは分かりません。北海道との交易が生み出した富はものすごく大きくて、で、そのためにお金が運ばれてきたっていうことは言えると思います。
It's such a huge fortune found in Hokkaido at the edge of the Japanese economic sphere. It's incredible. While much remains a mystery about Japan's biggest ever discovery of all coins, it does indicate the sheer scale of the commercial interest commanded by the island's resources. And all the people involved in supporting the trade with the Ainu, from the merchants themselves to the boatmen and guards, meant Japanese presence was only to increase. With a more permanent presence of Japanese on the island, it wasn't long before conflict flared up. Not far away, in 1457. An Ainu buys a dagger from a Japanese blacksmith, but is dissatisfied with the handiwork. An argument ensues, which escalates until the blacksmith stabs his customer. News of the incident spreads, reaching the ear of an Ainu chieftain called Koshamain, for whom this is the last straw. In an unprecedented move, he rallies together the separate Ainu clans and overruns 10 of the 12 Japanese forts. But a young samurai called Takeda Nobuhiro mounts a formidable defense, driving the Ainu into retreat and putting an end to the uprising. In time, Nobuhiro becomes the leader of Japan's only feudal domain on Hokkaido Island, the Matsumae. A new power that would set the Ainu on a path of no return. In the early 17th century, the Matsumae clan held Japan's only official territory on Hokkaido. Its establishment on the southern tip of the island brought with it new settlers, merchants and traders from the Japanese island of Honshu. My guide to this reconstructed trading town is Yukihito Ida.
こちらの建物なんですけど、こちらは商家といって中に商品があります。
Department store.
そうです。こちらは紙結り床と言いまして、バーバーですね。
The barber, I see the barber. Yeah, Edo style, it's all shaved.
ここは地震番号屋といって警察と消防と合わせたようなものなんですね。これ
I see.
夜にこれを鳴らすんですね。火の用心。試してみますか。
はい、火の用心。
ああ、上手ですね。
It's clear how the Japanese inhabitants brought their own lifestyle with them to Hokkaido, but one key reliance on the mainland remained.
昔この北海道では全く米が取れなかったんですね。ですので全て本州で作った米を船に積んで、それでこちらの松前の方に運んできた。その粟とか冷えとか米じゃない穀物を食べてたんですけど、ここの人たちは裕福だったので全て米を食べてました。
So we have rice, we have miso, we have soya sauce, and we have sake. These are essential ingredients, and everything had to be imported, just like Singapore. And to pay for it, the Matsumae regularly sent goods back from Hokkaido to the mainland with these impressive vessels.
北前船という船なんです。エンジンがついてなくてですね、この帆だけでね、本州と松前とこう行ったり来たりしてたんですね。
Their cargo to Japan included salmon and kombu for consumption herring for fertilizer, and animal pelts. Soon, news of Hokkaido's abundance spread.
松前に行ったら儲かるからっていう噂が広まって、どんどん船が多くなりましたね。
So it's like a land of golden opportunity.
確かに昔の人はとても儲かったんだと思いますよ。
As trade enriched the Japanese, the Ainu grew more dependent on imported rice and ironware. And in 1604, a new law from mainland Japan spelt disaster, giving Matsumae a trade monopoly over Hokkaido, which led to them expanding operations further north into Ainu heartlands and raising their prices, causing resentment that finally boiled over into the biggest Ainu uprising in history. To regain their freedom from Japanese control once and for all, a chieftain called Shakushain unites different Ainu groups to create a massive army. They carry out wide-ranging attacks in 1669, ambushing trading posts and ships. The enclave of Matsumae receives over 500 soldiers as backup from the mainland. They face an army of over 2,000 Ainu and their fearsome poison-tipped arrows. But the Japanese have their own lethal weapon, Portuguese muskets, that turn the tide of the battle. By autumn of 1669, Shakushain's forces surrendered, and the great Ainu leader was assassinated. The fall of Shakushain, who is still remembered as a hero, ended the biggest hope the Ainu ever had of ridding their island of Japanese influence. While some called for their people to move inland and live in the traditional way, too many Ainu had grown dependent on Japanese goods to change. The fall of Shakushain marked a turning point. Over the next 2 centuries, Matsumae expands, building new trading posts that saw ever greater numbers of Japanese settle, crashing the local deer and fish stock, and spreading new diseases, which reduces the Ainu population by at least half. In 1869, the Japanese government takes direct control, building a new regional capital on the island's interior and laying symbolic claim over the whole island. With direct Japanese rule came colonial policies that not only prohibited the Ainu language, but also classified their traditions of hunting and fishing as theft. The Ainu were dispossessed of their land and faced a sharp decline in their way of life. After 150 years, the tide is finally turning. This community class is practicing a much-loved Ainu tradition. This dance depicts a crane, the revered god of the marshes, as they flap their wings and take to the skies. Breathless, I'm breathless. So it's a bit complicated. There's a lot of yodeling. And then you have this sort of a sound which imitates the cranes. Movements are simple, but to sing, keep the complicated rhythms and all together, you know, it's a challenge. They say all the Ainu really love this dance, and I can really see why. It's so much fun. But this version of the song is different to what the Ainu know today. It's what 65-year-old researcher Nobuhiko Chiba was once taught by an old Ainu grandmother.
昔のおばあさんたちは本当に すごく優れたジャズメンみたいにアドリブがものすごく多いんです。なので決まったメロディーっていうのがなくて本当に引き出しがたくさんあっていろんなことをやるんです。で今はちょっと時代が下って日本の影響なのかわからないんですけども昔の激しい踊りからちょっと静かになってます。例えば昔だったら「へいしことるへいしことる」ってこうやってたのが今は「へしことるへしことる」踊りもシンプルになってます。でそれを今なんとか昔のように戻したいんですけれども。
It's wonderful to see Ainu arts being revived. But I really want to find out what it's like to be Ainu in Japan today. More than a century ago, the island of Hokkaido came under Japanese rule, nearly erasing the Ainu people and their way of life. But times are changing. In 2019, the Ainu finally gained legal recognition as an indigenous people. And more are finding ways to celebrate their identity. 23-year-old Maya Sekine is a YouTuber whose channel covers everything from Ainu language to cuisine and crafts.
今日はなんとシンガポールからピーターさんがいらしてくれているので、イランカラプテ。
What does that mean?
It's mean hello, like may I touch your heart?
I see.
Yeah.
I love studying languages, which can tell us so much about a people.
うおしっこて。It means like a fall in love.
うおしっこて。
means like お互いに目と目の端がくっついて離れない。こて。
Okay, that's very powerful. So that's
Yeah.
connecting eye to eye, heart to heart. I think connections are the most important, no?
Ainu language has a very beautiful meaning. 言葉から気づかされることってたくさんあります。そうですね。日本語でいいですよね。
Estimates say less than 100 people are conversant in the Ainu language today. Just another way their culture was nearly wiped out.
日本だと学校の教育で歴史では中心的なとこしか教えられなかったりとか、どうしてもこうアイヌのことを知るきっかけもなくて、アイヌってよくわかんないから怖いなとか、あとはアイヌってなんか汚いのかなとか、それこそ自然っていう言葉がないっていうアイヌの言葉で言うならば、多様性ってむしろ当たり前のことのはずなんですよね。友人が親に私の友達がアイヌでこうやってテレビ出てんだよっていうのを親に伝えたら、実は私たちもアイヌなんだよっていうのを聞かされたっていう人とかもたくさんいて、アイヌっていうのは人間であって、よりこう自分のことを好きになる人が増えたらいいなと思って活動してます。
I personally love the idea of diversity, and I think what you're doing is really wonderful. It is very inclusive, and that's an important message, how to be humans.
Confidence in Ainu identity is being renewed. And to see how it's affecting the traditional way of life, I'm visiting Maya's family in Biratori, a mecca for Ainu crafts.
この木の皮を剥いでいくと、
Okay.
これ荒皮をこれ取っちゃうんですね。これ煮たものなんですけど、
Yukiko Kaizawa is a master craftsman who uses tree bark to make cloth. It begins with soaking it in water until soft enough to handle.
水を切ってほしい。ぐーっともっともっと。あ、いいかな。
And once it's dried, it's time to peel it back to its fine layers.
木の皮と思えないでしょ。
Yes, it's so fine and soft. Feels like paper in a sense, but it's much stronger. Can really feel the strength in this very thin fiber.
Then the individual layers are split into thin strips.
も 慣れてくるとこう2本指だとか使ってこういっぺんに裂いたりするんですけど。
This is the technique only for masters. There you go.
上手上手
The two-finger technique.
上手
The long strips are then twisted with the help of a special ingredient.
作って。
Good old Singapore saliva.
あのね。
Hmm?
こんな感じよ。
The final step is to tie all the individual strings together and coil them into a ball of yarn.
How long has it taken you to make this?
裂くのと縛るので10日ぐらい。
Amazing. 10 days to do, and it's still only the beginning of the process to turn it into fabric.
This is a family workshop. While Yukiko-san weaves traditional textiles from her yarn, her daughter, Maki Sekine, specializes in embroidery. But official support for their traditional craft was hard-won.
100年の歴史を証明しないと伝統的工芸品の指定って受けられないっていうそういうものがあって、でもアイヌが文字を持たない民族、交渉文芸なんですよね。この指定を受けるまでには本当に苦労があって、母も東京の方に行ったりとか20年ぐらいはかかったよね。
すごい出品したりね、商品を
そうそうそう
分かってもらえるために。
But their efforts finally bore fruit in 2013, when they gained Japan's first official recognition as an Ainu craft, leading to a boost in demand.
We have here a very typical story of a small community on the wane and how legislation has led to a revival. Material culture is the most tangible expression of a community. It's so imbued with history, memories, and bark fiber, bast fiber they call it. Not many communities still make this, so this is really special.
While Ainu traditions are finding a wider audience, researchers are also making new discoveries about ancient Ainu ways. Archaeologist Hirofumi Kato is piecing together a bear skull from a 15th century site.
I guess that would be the snout.
No, yes. And here the eye. Yes,
This side. So this is a really interesting jigsaw puzzle.
The mystery he is trying to solve is about the Ainu practice of animal sacrifice, which carries a special mark.
So you can see the side of the skull has a hole.
It's a rather large hole.
This skull is related with bear ceremony. The process of the bear ceremony is very important. The Ainu treated bear calf as a human child. And they believe if bear grown up with good memories and enjoyed and life in the Ainu village, this bear back to the god's world to explain to the other god.
Basically, the Ainu people would raise the bear in a loving and respectful way so that the bear can return to the other side and give a good report.
Yes, yes.
Bear ceremonies called Iomante were the highlight of the Ainu's spiritual calendar until relatively recently. The opening in the skull was made as part of the ritual to send the bear's spirit back to the realm of the gods. But there's new evidence that this special care was also taken with other animals that were traded with the Japanese.
This is a shell of abalone, but you can see this one and this one also have a hole. Maybe from a Japanese merchant side interested in just a marine product. But for Ainu people, after the trading, these abalone are collected together for the ceremony, and the spirits of the abalone also back to the god's world.
I see. Is it telling you something interesting and different?
Yes, because this abalone ceremony is a lost memory and lost history of the Ainu people.
There was this aspect in Ainu culture where whatever you take, you must also have a sense of giving back. So it's all part of the whole ecology and natural world. And that's quite a beautiful way to trade.
The Ainu had a deep relationship with their natural world. And to see how that mentality is making an impact today, I'm traveling north to the Shiretoko Peninsula, one of the most untouched corners of Hokkaido. I'm heading into the mountains with veteran guide and Shiretoko native Mitsuki Matsuda.
Wow, look at the mountain view. Beautiful.
We're looking for something I've never seen, a bear in the wild.
Oh, wow, what's that?
これですね、エゾシカの毛なんですけれども、お尻の部分ですね、この白い毛はですね、冬毛の毛なんですけど、今これから夏毛に変わります。
So this time of the year, there's a lot of it everywhere?
これからもっともっとこの落ちてるのを見ることあります。
The Ezo deer was almost hunted to extinction for its hide, but has made a comeback, as have populations of some of the 300 other species that live here, including the apex predator and Ainu's top kamui, the bear, revered as an embodiment of the mountain god.
これ見ていただくと、これクマの爪痕です。
Wow. What do they do to leave these marks?
山ぶどうっていう、クマの大好物がの実ですね。それを食べるために登った爪痕だと思います。
Wow. Are there many bears around here?
半径400メートル以内に10頭以上いることもあります。
That sounds like a lot. Should I be worried?
クマに会う可能性というのは十分にあります。ただそんなに心配しなくても大丈夫です。こちらの行動が間違わなければ襲われるということはないので、クマが止まってる、もしくはあまりこちらを気にしないようだったらどんどん離れていくっていうのは必要です。
I see. Well, definitely don't climb up trees.
Since regular bear culls were abolished in 1990, their populations on Hokkaido are thought to have doubled. And while coexistence between bears and humans remains a challenge, the traditional worldview of the Ainu is a guiding compass.
昔アイヌの人たちはですね、自然大事に思うっていう部分と、もう一つはやっぱり恐れるっていう気持ちもあったんですよね。無制限に自然から搾取するんではなくてですね、やっぱりアイヌの人たちのように神様からの贈り物っていうふうにですね考えて、大事にそれをいただくっていうですね、そういう考え方っていうのが必要になってくるかなと思います。
It's good to see both Hokkaido's Ainu and its natural environment making a comeback. I didn't find a bear on the hike, but I'm not giving up. I'm taking a boat trip around the peninsula in hopes of ticking off my bear bucket list.
The water is very calm. The air is so crisp. Boatman is stopping at some places or slowing down, keeping a lookout.
Bear watching cruises are a novel tourist draw that's giving Shiretoko's fishermen a new avenue of work. But whether we see one is totally down to luck. And suddenly...
There it is, yeah. Right on that top. It's moving up that slope. It's busy foraging for its greens. Far away enough for me to feel safe, but you can see very clearly every movement.
Such a treat to see a bear in its completely natural environment. Cruises like these are perhaps the most harmless way of bear watching for both humans and bears. While human-bear conflict is still a concern, there's growing awareness of the need to find better ways to coexist with the natural world. And that, I'm sure, is something the Ainu ancestors would approve of. The Ainu's traditional respect for the natural world around them is perhaps more relevant today than ever before. But it's just the tip of the iceberg for what their story has to offer.
The Ainu, a resilient people, survived and flourished in the environmentally extreme homeland. While they embraced exchange, their reliance on trade
left them susceptible to pressures that eroded their traditional lifestyle. But after centuries of marginalization, the Ainu are now growing in confidence in their own identity, and their age-old way of living with nature is an increasingly vital lesson for the world today.